Will iTunes be a part of the tech history books soon? Are there now so many OTT services that some will have to be cut? Is the best way forward for innovation internal rather than acquisition? We'll tackle all this and more at the intersection of business and culture. Disruptive FM. Roll the title.
It's Disruptive FM. Disruptive FM. Disruptive FM. Welcome to Disruptive FM, where business and culture collide. Sponsored by Microsoft and Branding Strategy Insider. With your host, Jeffrey Colon.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Hope you're having a great week. Welcome to Disruptive FM, episode 41 for the week ending Friday, April the 12th. I'm Jeffrey Colon, your host for the next quarter hour, as we check out the latest in marketing, tech, media, and popular culture. Let's get started.
Here are this week's trending topics. iTunes, Plural.
The lumbering monster that is iTunes may finally be nearing the end of its life. Apple released iTunes in 2001. It allowed people to organize their music collections digitally and add new music to iPods before music streaming services and Wi-Fi syncing were ubiquitous. And also when ripping and burning CDs was still a thing. The current program, however, has been repurposed so many times to include all manners of media that most users now agree it's just too bloated to be sustainable moving forward. Does this mean that Apple soon will create separate apps that can deal with customers' different types of media? Well, it appears that's what is happening. Apple already confirmed at its March press event that its TV app will arrive on the Mac this fall. You'll be able to access Apple's new TV Plus streaming service, as well as movies and TV shows for rent or purchase, and pay TV subscriptions. At the moment, podcasts and Apple Music are accessible via iTunes on Mac OS. The break-off apps are likely going to be made with Marzipan. That is Apple's in-development technology that allows apps to be developed and run seamlessly across the iPhone, iPad, or Mac. Something consumers demand in a multi-device world. This is an interesting strategy, if it does happen, as Apple unbundles its way to a user experience long overdue.
Trending topics on DFM. OTT Plus.
Disney is making a big bet on streaming, a market increasingly crowded with other power players like Netflix and Amazon, with its upcoming service dubbed Disney Plus. While Disney is well positioned to dominate the field due to its immense catalog of content and ability to create new movies and series, people are split on what this means for competitors. Netflix has been resilient in the face of other competition, for example, but Disney has spent years preparing for its service's November launch. The company is likely best positioned to dominate the market, argues a Vanity Fair article recently. But are there now too many OTT services? Remember, we cut the cable cord for a reason. Usually, if we look at history, this is always what happens with new technology services. You have a swell that ultimately leads to consolidation, obsolescence, and competition. Right now, many consumers have cut the cord on cable, but will they have to ultimately cut the stream on some of these OTT services? In a recent survey from Ask Suzy, the real-time research platform, most users of OTT services said they only would be willing to pay $21.95 per month for a service and a total of 2 services. That means a grand total of about $44. But now we have services saying they will launch at $50 to $70 a month. Could they be pricing themselves out of the market right away? This happened with many music streaming services back in the mid-2000s, long before Spotify and Apple dominated the plot. The same thing seems to be happening here. Where this is a plus, at least, is consumer choice. Nothing wrong with multiple services competing for once and not languishing in a corporate welfare state like their cousin, cable television.
Trending topics on DFM. Inner innovation.
So many companies are just buying their way to innovation. And of course, many startups know this and thus launch with the hope of being acquired. Yet there is an in-house movement going on in the business world in which we should be paying attention. The trend is big companies moving specific services in-house to handle that they formerly outsourced. So should the case be the same when it comes to innovation? Yes, I run an internal think tank or a brand studio at Microsoft. But if this were 2013, it would be highly unlikely something like this would be funded. Now, it seems to be all the rage. But don't take our word for it at DFM. An expert on in-house innovation, Chitra Anand, has a great book out currently titled The Greenhouse Approach, Cultivating Intrapreneurship in Companies and Organizations. Anand joined us earlier this week via Skype to talk about this growing in-house trend. Here's a bit of that conversation.
So in the first part of the book, I really talk about some ideas on some shifts that need to take place in order for organizations to really unleash entrepreneurial talent and culture. One of the ideas that I talk about is this whole idea around how decisions are made. You know, we all make decisions. Decisions are very important to make ideas go forward. And I talk about this whole idea of minority rules. You know, so much of the time we're sitting around the boardroom where we're so stuck on consensus thinking. But if you look at the very fundamentals on what consensus is, it doesn't drive innovation. And if you look at what is required for innovation, there is debate, there's a spark, there is friction, there's this whole diversity of thought, like you're going to have a different perspective than I am. But we are conditioned as human beings to sort of move away from conflict, but the magic really lies in the conflict, and the magic really lies in this contention that happens amongst ideas and people. But we are so products of our social construct. So, you know, we're conditioned to say, well, if we're not going to work together or have consensus, or, you know, that person might not be a team player, they're not being collaborative. But the fact of the matter is, there is magic that lies in the minority thinking, and we have to rewire the way we are thinking in order to truly drive innovation forward.
That was Chitra Anand, author of the book Greenhouse Innovation. To hear my full-length interview with Chitra, check out our DFM bonus round on our Disruptive FM YouTube channel.
You're listening to Disruptive FM with Jeffrey Colon.
Now, here comes the music. Here comes the music. Here comes the music. Here comes the music.
It's Disruptive FM, the culture of business. I'm Jeffrey Colon, and as always, DFM is brought to you by Microsoft Advertising and Branding Strategy Insider. We are your friends. Connect with us on social media at Disruptive FM on both Twitter and Instagram, and connect with me personally on both Twitter and Instagram at DJGEOFFE. And for more in-depth analysis of some of these topics, check out bingads.ai and brandingstrategyinsider.com. DFM is also sponsored by iOgrapher, who can help you create better video. They make accessories for your smartphones and tablets, like better lenses and microphones, so you can make professional quality videos. Check out all their great products at iOgrapher.com. In the background, music from an artist called Nebraska. The track is entitled Instant Pressure. It's out now on the label Razor and Tape. You can listen to the whole track on Spotify. We'll include a link in the description for this episode.
Disruptive FM presents...
Stop! It's the motherfucking remix!
Everything is a remix.
Lately, there is this huge movement toward basics or brandless products. Things where people don't have loyalty. Everything from sugar and flour to boxing gloves and t-shirts. While many think this is a new trend that is taking off because of e-commerce, let's rewind back to the 1970s when grocery stores had a whole aisle filled with brandless or generic products. The reason brandless or generic was big in the 1970s? Well, it was the economy. It was a period of stagflation. People were looking to save money and weren't going to pay top dollar for things like soda pop, cereal, or syrup. So this brandless movement, well, we have it again. But is it all due to e-commerce or more to do with the economy? Or is it a little bit of both? One thing for certain is it's not new. It's a remix of a movement we already went through 40 years ago. So when someone pipes up and says this is technology driving this movement or driving this consumer behavior, maybe tell them to study the past a little bit more in order to understand where we could be headed in the future. All right, time once again to take a look at some simmering stories we think you should keep an eye on. It's a segment called On the Radar.
Here's what's on our radar. Number 1.
Social media has fueled millennials' latest craze. Instagram-worthy houseplants. Millennial demands for houseplants has revived the near-dead market. U.S. houseplant sales have increased almost 50% to $1.7 billion in the past 3 years alone. Despite growing millennial demand, many plant merchants are still averse to selling online, creating a market opportunity for startups to fulfill.
Number 2.
The insurance industry is using new technology, such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, to adjust premiums and personalize policies. AI can be used to analyze massive amounts of data efficiently, with apps that can examine social media accounts for risky behavior and smartwatches that track your health and predict life expectancy. But the combination of smart devices and artificial intelligence can also produce discrimination.
Number 3.
HBO's final season of Game of Thrones kicks off, which leads to a huge question that is as tough a challenge as the inevitable war against the White Walkers. How do you wrap up a seemingly infinite number of storylines in a way that fans of the original George R.R. Martin novels will think justifies a decade's investment? Remember, people were really peeved when The Sopranos ended. We'll see what happens, and we hope you tune in too, to a show we feel is analogous to the business world at large. Okay, that's going to wrap up another episode of DFM, number 41. We appreciate your time and attention, and we would appreciate it even more if you would rate, review, and subscribe. Yes, please subscribe to the show. We're on just about all your favorite podcast services: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spreaker, Stitcher, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and SoundCloud. Once again, the socials, Twitter and Instagram, @DisruptiveFM is the handle. And read more in-depth content via our 3 sponsors, BingAds.ai, BrandingStrategyInsider.com, and iOgrapher.com. Next week, we have Jack Appleby, Director of Creative Strategy at Midnight Oil, talking the video streaming wars. You don't want to miss it. Until then, for everyone here at DFM, thanks for checking in. I'm Jeffrey Colon. Catch you next week.
You've been listening to Disruptive FM with Microsoft Communications designer Jeffrey Colon. All thoughts are his own. Disruptive FM is produced in Los Angeles by Feeler Media.